My sister tried to turn me into a punchline, but that night her own words became Exhibit A against her. The dining room looked staged for a magazine spread. Crystal throwing sparks under chandeliers, dark wood buffed so smooth it caught reflections, champagne whispering in every flute. Voices ran hot and certain. Lena sat dead center like the room had been built around her. She raised a glass and projected the way she always does, expecting everyone to tune to her frequency, then launched into a victory speech about her big promotion at the defense firm. My parents leaned in, smiles lacquered on, nodding like success was a family heirloom she'd inherited alone. I was 2 seats down, half in shadow, folding my napkin with the same deliberate care I used to seat a magazine in a rifle. Then she fired the shot. Rhea tried the army once, couldn't even hack basic. Laughter arrived on cue, first her friends, then the guests who always play it safe. My parents chuckled the way people do when cruelty looks fashionable. Heat climbed my chest, but my face stayed calm. Silence is armor. Any soldier learns that early. A memory flashed. Summer heat, my ROTC uniform crisp, an OCS acceptance letter in my hand like a medal nobody else could see. Lena jingled car keys under the porch light while our father said, "Don't be reckless, Rhea," as if ambition were a hobby. That was the first entry in a ledger they never paid. Back in the restaurant, forks scraped, laughter ricocheted, and Lena basked in it. Only one person didn't join. Adrian Pike, a DoD senior at the far end, watched me with the quiet eye of someone checking metal for temper. I let my shoulders settle, gave the thinnest smile. To everyone else her jab sounded final. To Pike and to me it hung there as evidence waiting for context. He rotated his water glass a fraction, then slid a small card across the table. White against mahogany, the edge catching light like a blade. I took it without breaking rhythm, no ripple in the conversation. His voice was barely above polite. Pentagon. 0900. Lena missed it, too busy polishing her grin. My parents were already composing the next toast. I felt the moment land inside me like a coin on a scale. The first sign the balance would tip. My secure phone buzzed. Opal Lattice. Priority. They thought I was a ghost at that table. They didn't know I was the lead on the case, with her name threaded through it. Fort Meade's SIF breathed cold and steady. Fluorescence flattened color. Server racks exhaled in metronome hisses. I badged in, signed the log, and let the door seal my personal life outside the steel. The analysts already had the graph up. Nodes pulsing, edges knitting tight. "Walk me through it," I said. "Sigint correlation complete," Singh answered. Gray spire activity originated inside Bracken Dynamics restricted VLAN. No external lure, no rat on the wire. Someone with keys opened the door. Kept my voice level. Timestamps. Credential use. Any anomalous process trees. "The pattern tells on itself," Singh said. Odd-hour logins, short encrypted bursts tied to bogus maintenance tickets, followed by a sloppy scrub. Pro work or well-coached, but they left what they always leave. Entropy drift, clock skew, human cadence inside code. I nodded once. Copy. Continue. Timestamps credential use anomalous processes. The pattern told on itself, log on at odd hours, encrypted bursts pinned to bogus maintenance tickets, then a scrub that forgot the dust under the rug. Professional or coached, either way they left fingerprints you can't boil off. Entropy drift, clock skew, human cadence inside code. I crossed to General Whitman's office. He looked up, measured, steady. "Sir," I said, "I have a familiar tie to a senior executive at Cortez. Monica Turner is my sister. I request guidance and stand ready to recuse." He let the silence work. "Then your knowledge isn't bias, Colonel. It's leverage. Do it by the book." "Understood." We briefed the task force. Warrants drafted, scope constrained, minimization underlined twice. When approvals landed, the floor moved as one. Caldwell ran point isolate uplinks cradle drives image bit for bit verify with SHA 256. He read hashes aloud. I countersigned each line, every handoff witnessed, every seal dated. Chain of custody became a spine no one could bend. Back in the lab, copies bloomed, file trees branched, emails indexed, audit logs stitched into a narrative. Caldwell flagged finance. A soft river of money through Turner Horizons Foundation. Charitable on paper, convenient in practice. Funds arced from shells to a consultancy with no deliverables, then vanished into a trust. Document and compartmentalize, I said. No speculation. Snem. Whitman joined the evening sync. How are you, Abiel? I said. He nodded. Justice isn't comfort, it's clarity. Knight pressed down on my screen. The provenance map congealed controlled files. Query outputs wrapped as attachments, all threading back to a single user context that changed desks but never rhythm. You can disguise a face. Cadence betrays you. My monitor pinged target confirmed. Monica Turner. I didn't speak for a breath. I wrote the memo I'd rehearsed for years. Formal conflict notice limits of authority escalation plan signatures. I sent it, then headed for Alexandria. The DOJ suite smelled like paper and coffee. We sat across from attorneys. I laid out the map signals, hashes, transfers, narrowness of our warrants. They asked the right questions and cut the edges cleaner. We'll move one. Said, DOJ sends encrypted email arraignment scheduled Eastern District of Virginia, defendant Monica Turner. They thought a motion could bury the truth. I had spent my career proving that numbers never lie. December in Alexandria pressed a pale light against the courthouse glass. Inside the courtroom smelled of paper and varnish, a sterile calm that made every word carry weight. Truly, Monica arrived bracketed by lawyers whose suits fit like armor. My parents sat behind them, postures polished for the public view. General Whitman kept to the back, a granite stillness. Ryan Caldwell lined our evidence boxes in a neat row, tabs and seals aligned, the custody log clipped where a judge could reach it. Your Honor, lead defense began. The digital evidence is tainted, improperly seized. He lectured about scope and minimization, about dates and drives and doubtful hashes. Fog meant to make the room forget there had ever been a horizon. The prosecutor rose. The United States calls Colonel Abigail Turner. The oath fit like a familiar instrument. On the stand, I laid out the sequence: containment order, network isolation, read-only imaging, hash calculation at acquisition and verification at every transfer. 2 signatures at each touch point, timestamps from independent clocks, an air-gapped workstation, photographed seals, a ledger that didn't flinch when stared at. Caldwell followed with the exhibits. He did not perform them. He presented them: hash values printed and mirrored on-screen, receipts initialed in different inks, each handoff witnessed by name and badge. When defense pressed him on offsets and tool versions, he cited build numbers without checking notes. Whitman's maxim threaded my breathing: justice isn't comfort, it's clarity. I kept answers short, declarative. Facts are oxygen. Emotion is weather. Defense pivoted. Timestamps. Credential use. Odd process trees. The pattern confessed on its own. Logins at off hours, short encrypted bursts stapled to fake maintenance tickets, then a wipe that forgot to sweep the corners. Pro work or well coached, but they still left what no one can bleach out. Entropy drift, clock skew, human cadence baked into code. I crossed the hall to General Imani Hart's office. She looked up, steady and already doing the math. Ma'am, I said, I have a familial tie to a senior executive at Bracken Dynamics. Lena Mercer's my sister. I'm requesting guidance and I'm prepared to recuse. Hart let the quiet test my resolve. Your knowledge isn't bias, Colonel Cade. It's leverage. Use it by the book. Roger. We briefed the task force. Warrants drafted, scope tight, minimization underlined twice. When approvals landed, the floor moved as one. Chief Warrant Officer Mason Cole ran point, isolated uplinks, cradled drives, imaged bit for bit, verified every acquisition with SE256. He read the hashes out loud. I countersigned each line. Every handoff witnessed, every seal dated. The chain of custody turned into a spine no one could bend. Back in the lab, copies bloomed. File trees branched, mailboxes indexed, audit logs stitched themselves into a narrative you could follow without adjectives. Cole flagged finance. A soft river of money through Mercer Horizons Foundation. Charitable on paper, convenient in practice. Funds arced from shells to a consultancy with no deliverables, then disappeared into a trust. Document and compartmentalize, I said. No speculation. Yes, ma'am. At the evening sync, Hart studied my face the way she studies a map. How are you holding up, Colonel? Clarity over comfort, I answered. Her own mantra returned. Knight Preston on my screen. The provenance map congealed. Query outputs bundled as attachments, all threading back to a single user context. Desks changed, rhythm didn't. You can mask a face. Cadence betrays you. My monitor chimed. Target confirmed. Mercer, Lena. I didn't speak for a full breath. Then I wrote the memo I'd rehearsed for years. Formal conflict notice, authorities limited, escalation plan, signatures. Sent. After that, Alexandria. The DOJ suite smelled like paper and coffee. We sat across from the attorneys. I laid out the map, signals, hashes, transfers, and the narrowness of our warrants. They asked the right questions and trimmed edges cleaner. We move now, the lead AUSA said. An encrypted notice followed. Arraignment scheduled, Eastern District of Virginia. Defendant, Lena Mercer. They thought motions would bury the truth. I've built a career on numbers that don't lie. December light went flat against the courthouse glass. Inside you could hear the varnish breathe. Lena arrived bracketed by lawyers in armor-cut suits. My parents sat behind her, postures polished for public consumption. General Hart stayed in the back, granite and quiet. Mason Cole laid our evidence boxes in a precise row, tabs aligned, custody log clipped where the judge could reach it. Your Honor, defense began, the digital evidence is tainted, improperly seized. He talked scope and minimization, dates and drives and doubtful hashes. Fog designed to erase the horizon. The prosecutor stood. The United States calls Colonel Rhea Cade. The oath fit my hands like a familiar tool. On the stand I ran the sequence. Containment order, network isolation, read-only imaging, hashet acquisition, verification at every transfer, 2 signatures at each touchpoint, timestamps from independent clocks, air-gapped workstation photographed seals, a ledger that does not flinch when stared at. Cole followed with exhibits. He didn't perform, he presented, hash values printed and mirrored on screen, receipts initialed in different inks, each handoff witnessed by name and badge. When defense pressed him on offsets and tool versions, he recited build numbers without glancing down. Hart's maxim paced my breathing. Justice isn't comfort, it's clarity. I kept answers short, declarative. Facts are oxygen. Weather is emotion. Defense pivoted. Colonel, isn't it true you have a personal stake here? I do, I said. Lena Mercer's my sister. The department has my recusal boundaries in writing. My testimony is confined to method, nothing more. The judge watched my face, then the binder, then the clock. The prosecutor redirected. Let's talk integrity, one artifact, end to end. We walked it slow and clean. Acquisition image ID, 256 at capture, the same hash verified at every handoff. Chief Warrant Officer Mason Cole didn't hesitate. He read the string back from memory, cadence steady as if he'd drilled it on a range. The judge leaned forward. Counsel, he said to the defense, your motion alleges contamination and supplies no proof. A tap of his finger on the binder. Motion denied. For a heartbeat the room forgot to breathe. Lena's practiced smile, the one that usually survives any weather, slipped at the corners. My parents sat carved in place. During recess the AUSA passed close enough for a whisper. Next time we use the dagger. I knew the blade. A digitally signed email ordering a logging blackout, still sealed, held back for a jury that would read it as motive, not procedure. The thought didn't warm me. It just settled the pieces where gravity wanted them. Cole repacked the exhibits with the same quiet rigor he'd used to stage them. All receipts refiled, he said. No discrepancies. Good work, I answered. Outside, dusk pooled on the courthouse steps. Reporters waited for words they weren't getting. I stood in the honest December cold long enough to clear the taste of litigation from my mouth, then went back in. At the clerk's window a schedule slid across. The prosecutor met my eyes. We both understood a calendar can write a verdict early. Trial set, January, Eastern District of Virginia. The email would surface. This was only the opening move. What came next would decide everything. Stay with me, and if you want the next turn in real time, make sure you're subscribed. I used to be the sister they mocked. Today the room would stand when they said my name. January brought brittle light that bounced off polished floors and sharpened every edge. Flags stood sentry. The seal over the bench felt like a verdict before the verdict. The gallery filled, families of employees, a scatter of press, uniformed officers trading deployment for duty in this chamber. The air smelled like wool coats and tension. The prosecutor opened flat and certain. This isn't corporate sloppiness. It's a breach of national trust. The line pulled the jury taut. Lena sat at the defense table, posture bored, pen turning like jewelry. Her lawyers leaned in, whispering assurances. My parents positioned themselves directly behind her. Loyalty posed for the camera. They called Adrian Pike. He moved to the stand with the same deliberate calm he'd shown in Georgetown. Under oath, he repeated Lena's line from that dinner. Couldn't hack basic. And then described my Pentagon briefing the very next morning. He detailed the precision, the clarity, the gravity. One night, a sister's sneer. The next morning, Colonel Cade commanding a room of generals. The contrast rippled across the jury box. Pens stopped moving. Then it was my turn. I walked forward. Buttons to regulation, ribbons aligned, every step exact. Defense counsel shaped a smile that aimed to bruise. Miss Cade. The gavel cracked once. Address the witness properly, the judge said. Colonel Cade. Colonel Cade. The title landed like iron. A hush moved through the room. My father's body answered before his pride could. He shot to his feet in something close to attention, spine locked, chin set. He hadn't meant to. For the first time in my life he stood because of me, not against me. Questions came in clean bursts. I answered with the same measured cadence I use on a range. Chain of custody, not commentary. No heat, all weight. Chief Warrant Officer Mason Cole presented the custody log. Steady voice, unshakable. He read the digits as if they were liturgy. Every exhibit aligned. Every seal intact. The prosecutor stepped into the final act. Your Honor, Government Exhibit 43. The screen filled with an email, digitally signed, not deniable. Lena Mercer's own directive. Disable data loss prevention logging for a maintenance window. The signature had cryptographic teeth. No argument could sand them off. A soft gasp rippled through the gallery. Lena stared, disbelief slipping into the look people wear when they realize the bill is theirs. The jury didn't take long. The foreman's voice was steady. Guilty on all counts. Lena's posture buckled. Hands trembled against the table. My parents sat like carved figures. Reputations hardening into something brittle. Judge Rowe stacked his papers. Sentencing to be scheduled. I rose, squared my jacket and walked out, past rows of eyes, past marble, past my parents without looking back. They once gave me a gift card where pride should have been. Today I carried a star no receipt could buy. April laid pale sunlight across Carillon Hall, banners bright against white columns. A brass ensemble tested low notes that hummed in the spring air. Dress uniforms filled the auditorium. Families framed the sea of blues and greens with color and nerves. It was a stage built for continuity, for burdens passing from one set of shoulders to the next. I stepped to the podium. The single silver star on each epaulette rested with a weight I'd trained my back to bear. I let silence collect until it felt like attention. Command isn't a prize, I began, voice even. It's a load you agree to carry. Faces stilled. A few heads nodded. They tell you leadership is a ladder, I said. They forget to mention how much of it is structural steel. Every decision lands on someone else's bones. Character is armor. Ethics is the only weapon that never misfires. Applause found its rhythm and then softened. When I was 18, my sister got keys to a new car. I got a bookstore voucher. That ledger taught me the difference between praise handed out cheaply and respect you earned slowly. Years later, a general taught me a truth I live by. Justice isn't comfort, it's clarity. When storms hit, clarity is the only compass that doesn't spin. I spoke of sacrifice. The nights the mission outlasts the daylight, the choices made alone in windowless rooms. Rank, I told them, isn't applause. It's endurance. Not the sound of titles, but the quiet of responsibility met without flinching. When I closed, the room rose. Not indulgence, not pity. Recognition. Whole and solemn. Afterward, hands found mine. General Imani Hart inclined her head. A small salute in motion. Mason Cole stepped up, new rank pin catching the light. Ma'am, he said quietly, you taught me the ledger matters more than the spotlight. I gave him a nod. Enough said. My personal phone vibrated. A number I knew too well. We're proud of you. Can we talk? Lydia Cade. My breath caught, not with anger or longing, just with the echo of what used to matter. I set the phone face down. Peace doesn't require their permission. Cole returned with a folder, seal unbroken. "Ma'am," he said, voice low, Pike flagged something urgent. "I carried silence for years while my sister was applauded and I was dismissed. That silence became strength. Discipline, patience, fidelity to the evidence. Standing here with a star on my shoulder, I know this. Justice doesn't roar. Settles, sharp, undeniable. If you've walked a version of this road, tell me what you would have done in my place. Drop your thoughts below. And in your own life, don't let anyone else set your value. Integrity is your true armor.